Hey everyone, it's that time again, that time that we talk about The Mandalorian, and I'm just going to say right here, there's no way I can talk about this episode without just being spoilers. Like, that's it. The whole episode should just be called Chapter 14, Spoilers. So, there's your warning. No, I guess if you want to know my general thoughts, I thought it was a pretty good episode. I have a few nitpicks and complaints here and there, but overall, not bad. Kind of wasn't exactly what I expected, but we'll get into that in the spoiler section. All right, spoiler section. So first off, I couldn't be happier to be wrong. In the last episode of my review, I said, next will be a filler episode. Nope. They go to the Jedi planet, which looks like a burned out mountain. And it has a little Stonehenge looking place, and it's like, all right, boop. Puts the child on the little statue. He's like, all right, Grogu, do your little Jedi thing. And he starts a little glowing. And everything seems cool until two people show up to try to kill Mando. He gets in a brief scuffle with them, and it turns out they are Boba Fett and Fennec. Which means we finally have a combination of a fox and a drink being added to shiny armor and a baby. It's a great combination there. Anyhow, they kind of come to a tentative agreement when the Empire shows up and starts shooting everyone. So they fight back, and there's some really, really brutal takedowns here. It really does feel Robert Rodriguez to me, especially when Boba Fett just takes that staff thing he's been carrying around and just wrecks a bunch of stormtroopers. It is brutal and intense and pretty darn awesome, actually. And of course, Boba Fett gets his armor, which is awesome to see him use all his gadgets on his armor, including his missile. Of course, he gets to shoot off the missile. And overall, it's a really cool episode. You get to see Fennec do her sharpshooter stuff, and you get to see Mando just be Mando. But then we start to get to some of my issues with the episode. First off, this is a shorter episode, and my theory is that this may have been because of the virus, or this could have been due to some of the issues Pedro Pascal supposedly had on set. Those are rumors, but they seem to be mostly true-ish. Either way, I think that shortened the length of this episode. In addition to that, there's little things I would have liked to have seen. Like, I'm curious what the child saw when he was in the little light that was coming from the seer stone. That would have been really interesting to kind of see what he was seeing, and we didn't get to see that. And the ending I have issues with, but not for the reason you might think. After the stormtroopers retreat because they were completely outmatched by three elite bounty hunters, the dark troopers are sent out, and they're awesome. They look to be more like cyborg or robot based because you can see some metal parts sticking out. They got their cool armor. They immediately capture the child and leave. And I feel that was really shoddy storytelling. I think that there should have been a scuffle with the Dark Troopers. Dark Troopers should have had the upper hand, show that they are actually a threat, and have our characters go and say, whoa, what the heck are these things, and how did they just kick our butts so hard? And then have them escape with the child, which then could lead to the team trying to come up with a strategy to actually fight these things, and that would have been really interesting. And instead, they're just going to show up, take the kid, and leave, and they're like, what were those things? I don't know. Okay. All right, let's do that right. That's great. We do get some interesting moments on Gideon's light cruiser. You have the child tossing around stormtroopers like the ragdolls. It's a very, very cool. It seems to also be psychically attacking them, since sometimes they're grabbing their heads. And again, because he doesn't say anything or say anything we can understand, you don't really know what he's specifically doing. You just gotta kind of guess. But it was a pretty cool little sequence to see him fight back and try to protect himself. And, Gideon calls Dr. Mengele at the end and is like, hey, we got the child, let's do some science. And so, of course, that's going to lead into whatever it's going to lead into. And that's great for a, cliffhanger, oh no, we got to rescue the kid. And it sets up at the very end of the episode with Mando visiting Navarro and talking to her name? Cara Dune. Talking to Cara Dune and saying like, hey, I need you to help me find a guy who's a criminal, because I'm going to need his help to use him to help track down Gideon and rescue the kid. And there's a cool setup, because it sounds like next episode's going to be gathering the team, and then the final episode of the season will be rescuing the kid. And I really do like that. I just kind of wish they'd taken a little more time on this episode to get a little more done. You know, one, develop a little bit, character stuff. I'd like to know a little bit more about how Fennec and Boba Fett have been doing. Seeing things from the kid's perspective would have been great. Even just a little bit more on Slave 1 would have been nice. You don't really see anything happen on Slave 1. They just zip on Slave 1 and go home. There are things I did like. I did like the Razor Crest being destroyed. I made comment in an earlier review saying it'd be cool if, every season he either had a new ship or a revised model. It's just one of those kind of to separate the seasons in terms of seeing how things evolve in the story. Like how his original armor, and then you have the shiny armor at the end of season 1. And, the Razor Crest was getting repaired and stuff, and I wanted it to look like this cool retrofit design, and it just kind of looked about the same. And now it is slag, and it seems likely that our Mando will be given Slave 2 or something along those lines. Maybe even Slave 3, depending which ones they want to bring into the series, and which ones Boba Fett has left at this point in his story. Oh, for those who don't know, the original extended universe, Boba Fett had at least 5 ships, Slave 1 to 5. And I believe 5 was like a carrier ship or something really absurd like that appeared in one comic and is probably less than canonical. But he did have spare ones. Even in one of the Bounty Hunter Wars books, he complains about that, saying, like, I shouldn't have called it Slave 1 because everyone would know there's a Slave 2. So, yeah, it was those little interesting moments. Yeah, I'm a Boba Fett nerd, by the way. I have a really, really nice painting of him that was made with the release of Shadows of the Empire, and it's autographed by the artist, and it's beautiful. He was always one of my favorite characters. I always felt like I liked him before he got popular, and then everyone liked him, and then, whatever. But overall, I'm going to say a few things about this episode that I really did like. One, it's great seeing Fennec back. I knew she'd come back sooner or later, and this was not entirely how I was expecting it, but I do appreciate it this way. I thought she was going to come back as an antagonist again, kind of be a on-again, off-again villain kind of thing instead of kind of teaming up. Seeing Boba Fett was great. The way that he was portrayed by, the actor who played Jango and the voice for the clones, for the most part, did a great job, like, doing this older, wiser, calm and collected and very methodical Boba Fett. I really liked that. There's always that fear that they're going to make him more of a brute, like, say, in the animated special from the holiday special. He's a bit of a brute, but for the most part, just in the books and the comics and stuff like that, he was always portrayed more like an honorable warrior, being very calm, having his own personal ethical and moral codes, and it felt very much in line with what I knew of Boba Fett in the extended universe, and I'm glad that that's kind of how he's coming through in this one. Plus, seeing him back in the armor just still looks wrecked, because obviously it hasn't been repaired or anything since the Marshal got it. But it's still so cool to just see Boba Fett back in action and throwing down in the green armor, and just, yes! And it's cool having him as like an ally. I'm sure he'll be around for the remainder of the season, and probably on again, off again in the next season. And it also kind of gets me a little bit excited about those rumors of a Boba Fett spinoff, because I would be down with Boba Fett and Fennec traveling the galaxy and just bounty hunting the heck out of the underworld. That would be so cool. So what came down to me at the end of this episode was a mixture of me feeling a lot of hype because, Boba Fett, the Dark Troopers, were really moving forward in the plots. But I felt like they could have used some more time for character talking and not just a 25-minute action sequence. I would have liked to see the Dark Troopers do some fighting, because it just to have them show up, take the kid, and leave feels really boring and like, come on, you have them there. You have the big guns. Use the big guns. But that all being said, I know some people have been making comment about the Stormtroopers just being comedy relief villains at the beginning. But I would point out, they had one of the heavy repeater blasters. They had a mortar gun that they were launching mortars off at the team. So they were showing to be quite the threat there. These weren't quite the same as, say, the elites they fought on Navarro, but they were still decent quality soldiers. These weren't your goofball, stormtroopers they try to use in certain series, Rebels, Sorry, I was trying to say Rebels. And overall, it was a good episode, but not a great episode. Definitely a necessary episode for moving the story forward. But I really, just a little bit extra, another 5 or 10 minutes would have been great instead of this slightly over 30 minute stuff. It felt a little too short, and it was probably a circumstantial shortening of the episode. But it just, I don't know, it left me wanting more, but not in like a positive, like, ooh, can't wait for the next episode. I am that way, but I wanted more in this episode in general, if that makes any sense. But we have some exciting stuff coming towards this finale. It's cool seeing this team up. It's be interesting to see who Mando grabs to be part of his squad. I feel like we're going to get kind of like an Ocean's 11 type thing here, where it's like, this is the person who specializes in this, and this, and this, and this, and hopefully he has a cool team, kind of like the Prisoner episode from Season 1, which is my favorite episode of Season 1, where you have the specialized team all knowing their skills, and it doesn't just become Boba and Mando walking down a hallway shooting stormtroopers in a shooting gallery. That would be a little bit boring. I want something a little more cool and creative with how they assault Gideon and his forces. This may also mean that we're going to get Starbucks and her friends back, because they're looking for the Darksaber and Gideon, and, you know, enemy of my enemy is my friend. So hopefully they'll pop back in. We could have a really cool, like, Mandalorian squad just going in and just slaughtering, and that could be pretty amazing. Yeah, lots of excitement here, but like I said, I'm not letting that overview my feelings on this episode, because the flaws do kind of hurt it, but it was still a great episode. If you haven't seen it and you decided to have me spoil the entire episode for you, go and watch it. Especially if what you want out of Star Wars is a little more wars and a little less stars, this should work well for you. And we'll see where the next 2 episodes go as this season continues on. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you thought about this episode in the comments. Please like and subscribe. It only takes a few seconds for you, but it's really helpful to small channels like mine. And until next time, remember, this is the way.